Welcome to Queer Next, the podcast that puts the yeehaw in y'all means all. I'm your host, Beck.
And I am your host, Dash. Welcome to today's episode.
It's starting to sound like we go through this every week where we're like, can you hear me?
I really do like your hat. Where'd you get a Queer Wolf hat?
There used to be a shop out of, I think it was the Netherlands, some Scandi country called Queer Animals. It was one of those back in the 2000s and the early 2010s, American stores didn't have any like gender affirming clothing. It was hard to find binders or like packers or gaff, like tucking panties or anything like that. So a lot of that stuff came from either China, Korea, Taiwan, or the Netherlands. And so I bought a chest binder from some company I found on Instagram. And they also had, I think like they had the merch. It was like the storefront. And then you could also buy the gender affirming clothing. And I was like, Queer Wolf, that's hilarious. Because it was like shortly after I had found the Curse of the Queer Wolf VHS. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to buy this. And this is what I actually bought. But I also am secretly going to get. I remember actually, I think it was 2014 when I first saw an Autostraddle article about the first company in the US to be like its whole business model was trans or gender affirming like undergarments, and it was GC2B, and they made binders for like, non-binary trans masc people or anybody who wanted, like they have a big chest and you want to make it smaller. And I was just like, oh my God, it's happening. And now there's several companies. Of course, they also got that the Trump administration sent them all. No, it was not cease and desist.
I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know the name of the kind of letter they got, but basically like got a warning or sanction of some kind saying that they were selling medical grade something without appropriate FDA approval.
It's a warning level letter.
Right. So I know GC2B got one, Tomboy X got one, Flauntwear.
For them, the Fluxion, Gender Bender, Shapeshifter Apparel.
And that one is like, I think they just sell like Spanx. But that was like, because the letter, their justification was like, this is sold to minors for post-operative care. Like they explicitly said that these companies were in hot water because they were selling their products to minors recovering from gender-affirming surgery.
Yeah, illegal marketing of breast binders for children for the purposes of treating gender dysphoria.
Yeah, which they're not targeting children, but children can buy them if their parents.
Right.
Like, if you got a fucking bank card, you can buy anything on the internet.
Right.
But the thing is, like, children aren't receiving surgery. Like, a child can't get an elective surgery. What do they think we're doing? Is there some drive-through somewhere and we just pull up and go?
I mean, are you after the events of this week and the administration to tell us not believe what we saw with our own eyes? Right. You really think that it's time to drop any of the pretenses at this point and just admit what they are?
You're right. I mean, and like I've been thinking about that, like my like instinct to draw out the ridiculousness of it for the purposes of laughing at it. That's a coping mechanism. But maybe it's not time for coping anymore. Because, I mean, I'm sitting here in rural Minnesota watching these motherfuckers slowly fan out. They've been concentrated in the cities, but now they found their, it's not an actual reservation, but there are communities that are essentially indigenous communities on the outskirts of the Twin Cities. And they have found themselves there. So now they're harassing the indigenous folks.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, whatever. Fuck these motherfuckers. And I have been collecting. So there's a lot of groups that like we as at university like collaborate with a lot. I will put that stuff somewhere where y'all can find them either in the show notes, and we'll make sure to maybe link it in the newsletter this week of orgs that you can support. I mean, of course, we all wish we could physically help. right? But we can't, right? America's not structured that way. We're not structured that way. So if you're someone who wishes you could help, but all you have is funds to try to help support the folks who are able to be there, there's plenty of orgs you can give those funds to. So I'll make sure that
Even $5, $10.
Right, absolutely.
School starts this coming week.
It does. How are you feeling about that?
You know, I'm ready. I've got all my everything ready. I'm going to take tomorrow and go through my online course and make sure everything's set up there. Like I said, I didn't miss anything. Monday, I've got to go print. So other than that, because they still want us to hand out a copy of the syllabus first day of class.
A physical copy. Interesting.
Yeah. So I got to go print those and my attendance sheets, which I got to check those because I type them up before the semester starts. But in the first week, they change radically. So you got to have like 3 different versions of it.
Yeah, I've got my surgery and I got a what's it called? A follow-up appointment with my surgeon on Monday. And then, I don't know, just waiting to see when I go back to work.
Yeah. My SNHU class started this week and it's already, the AI is ridiculous. That's why I have such little faith in online education because it's so easy to cheat.
Oh, I'm starting to see. Remember I said we're going to go back to Blue Books? They're doing it. I'm starting to see like professors on social media are saying like, yep, that's it. We're doing Blue Books now. And a couple of high schools, it's pencil and paper tests now. Like y'all are you're gonna fucking learn.
Yeah. Which sucks because it's so much better when AI or when just the system grades like the matching and the ABCD multiple choice stuff. That just saves you a lot of time. But if you can't count on the essay stuff to be worth a damn, what's the point?
Yeah.
So I went through a bunch of my quizzes because on my ethnic studies class, I have them take a quiz every week. They're open book, online, whatever. But I went through and took out some of the essay questions because it's pointless and just adds to my grading time. So I made them more very specific questions from the textbook so they'd have to open the textbook and look at it.
Right. Yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to make it something that AI can't find or index.
Yeah.
So that if the answer isn't correct, then it's because the AI didn't know what the fuck you were talking about.
Right. It's stressful being a professor these days.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I don't know. The things that I teach, like even just the little intro to college class stuff that we teach, there's no writing assignments in that. Even though I loved teaching writing, I still very much remember why I decided not to pursue that as the only kind of thing I teach.
Right.
Because it's
the grading alone.
The grading, the myth of improvement. I don't know if people who teach content really have to contend with this as much, but because like there's are very few general education classes to teach that are so skills heavy as writing is. Even math, right? It's memorization. A lot of stuff is critical analysis of taking information in, kind of expanding your knowledge and understanding of things. But writing is fucking skills. And if you're not improving at it, it's very, very visible. And like the myth of improvement basically is that in a 16-week course, it's impossible to make anyone better at anything with what you've got, like the time you're able to spend with them in class. And so like for people who are teaching skills like writing or reading, they have to put in so much extra time to try to make the slightest dent in a person's skills level with something like writing, which is all skills, right? Like you're not going to be able to memorize something that's going to just immediately transfer into you being better at writing.
Right. I credit my writing ability to all the reading that I did when I was a kid. It makes you a better writer because you understand the flow of a story, you understand sentences and the way they work together. And when something isn't right, you notice it immediately,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. People who are readers are better writers on average.
Yeah.
And that's because writing, like the skills associated with writing aren't like English doesn't have grammar. Like that's the first thing you learn when you start to like go up, like get more advanced learning in English is that there's no such thing as grammar because English gobbled up a bunch of languages and barfed it into one bowl and said, this is our language now. And you don't like grammar from other languages. You can't splice them together. So we removed grammar from English and we created these like bastard versions of conjugation with as many exceptions as there are rules.
Right. I was very lucky in junior high when we learned a lot of the grammar rules and stuff. I had won a writing contest when I was in 7th grade. And so my 8th grade year, it didn't hurt that my 7th and 8th grade English teacher was like best friends with my dad when they were in high school. I had no idea that was true. I didn't really learn about that until I was older. But she, instead of making me go to English class, I went upstairs to a room by myself and wrote every day. And I got to do that all through 8th grade.
Wow. That's fun.
It was. And I got to write all kinds of interesting stuff. I wrote all kinds of poetry and stories and that kind of thing. Winning that contest was really an ego boost for me when I was a kid, because it was it was called Power of the Pen was the name of the contest. And they would give you like a prompt, and you'd get a half an hour or whatever the time limit was, and you had to write a story with the prompt. And then there was like an immediate grading, and then there was a regional competition and then a state competition. And I got to go to the state competition through one of my stories. It was a little comedy story about looking for money to buy batteries for the remote control, called Batteries Not Included.
In Kentucky, in the 90s, there was their version of standardized testing was actually really inventive. In 8th grade and junior year, you did a week's worth of essay-based testing, like hardly any Scantron shit. It was all like you would hang out in your homeroom. So it was all day, every day for the whole week. And the teachers would, go out of their way to try to make it feel exciting instead of terrifying. Like we would take little breaks and have games and snacks and stuff. But ultimately, like we were sitting essentially at a fucking GRE for a solid week in your 8th grade year and your junior year. And one of the components of it was what they called the portfolio, the writing portfolio. And it was, if any of our listeners were in a Kentucky public education in the 90s, maybe help me remember how many essays it was, but I'm thinking it was 5. And there would be like the personal essay, the research essay, the argument essay. And my 8th grade year was the first year I was at that school. So I went from Jellicoe, the worst school in existence, right? Like we scored too well on the Tennessee standardized test, and Jellicoe stopped letting us take the test because we fucked the bell curve. I was scoring 99% on the TCAP every year. And David and Vanessa were also scoring in the 90%, and they stopped letting us take it.
That's wild.
I know. I think that was the last straw for my mom, so that's why they transferred us to the Kentucky school illegally. I hope the statute of limitations is up on that, because it's definitely a fucking felony. But we just gave them a fake address and went to a school across the border in Kentucky.
Yeah. I went to a different district as well than the one that I lived in. But they were just neighboring. That was allowed where I was from. So, but it wasn't across state lines. It was across like township lines. You had to stay in the same county, I think. Maybe that's not true.
I would say that you're supposed to.
Well, because I have a friend, it might have changed in the time since, because where I grew up was pretty close to the county line between Scioto and Pike County. And I have a friend recently who thought about sending her kids to the Pike County schools instead of the Lucasville schools. I don't know how she would have managed that if you can't go across county lines.
I never have really known the rules either. I mean, I know obviously what we did was illegal. And of course, we got caught because it was a very small school and it was just obvious that we were lying. So we did that for like 2 years, and then they rented a place in Williamsburg, and then we started the move up there. And that's how we wound up in Kentucky, basically, was because in order to stay in school there, they had to.
Do you want to see something funny? Something kind of gross and funny?
Sure.
Look at the new pie from McDonald's.
What is that?
It's a strawberry. Here, let me see. I can't see myself.
You're so blurry. Oh, it's kind of like a Pop-Tart.
Yeah, but it looks so like
a gash.
Yeah.
It's even got a little button on the bottom.
Yeah, and you take a bite, and it like the strawberry stuff like piles up, and it looks even worse.
Hell yeah!
It makes me laugh every time I eat one. They're my favorite though. They're so good.
I drove past a McDonald's on the way back from I had to run an errand the other day, and doing, that takes your entire day here, since it's like a 90-minute drive, and then you have to do the thing, and then it's 90 minutes back. So,
Right.
and it's like not anything. It was an Amazon return.
Oh,
It takes
wow.
4 hours to do an Amazon return here. Yeah.
Wow.
This place is a pits, dude.
Yeah.
I met
That's a lot.
I met with that dietitian. I remember you told me, like, the one you met with, you were basically like, who do you think you're talking to?
Yeah. Like, you're not even being slightly realistic here, Like, you have to meet people where they are. You can't tell me to start eating couscous and avocado for every meal when I'm eating cheeseburgers and pizza, right? That just doesn't translate.
So, I mean, the one I met with was not like delusional like that, but like she was also kind of aware of the area I live in, because I think her sister, she had some sort of relationship to someone who lived nearby for a while. And so I was like, so like what groceries are like here? And she was like, yeah. And she's like, aren't you recovering from surgery? Like, how are you eating? And I was like, the grace and favor of the Lord. Like, sometimes people send me Costco. In a pinch, I can walk down to the little market and buy a $10 box of cereal, but I prefer not to.
Right.
Well, she did bring up chicken, and I was like, yeah, I went down to the market and looked for some, but they don't sell it. They don't sell chicken or pork because they can't control the temperature.
Oh, wow. So all you got is beef? Hope you're not susceptible to gout.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious how people even manage this shit, but I also kind of know it's because they have stuff I don't. They have family, they have friends, they have connections.
Yeah. We had very much a reminder of how alone we were up here. Listeners, just so you know, my dog Baby passed away this week, and we had the vet come in to the house to do the thing. And where we live, our address is outside of the range of where the crematorium will come get them. And since we had it done at home, that meant that we had to take her ourselves to the crematorium. And we were able to get her in the trunk and that kind of thing. But the issue was that we couldn't lift her. Like, we couldn't physically carry her to the trunk. Like, she fit in there, but getting her from her bed where she had passed out the door and into that car was just impossible. It was just too heavy for us. And so Shanna posted, I told her to post on the local Facebook group, and she just said, our dog just died. It's too heavy for us to lift. Is there anybody that can help? And within 5 minutes, we had 3 people volunteering. And within 15 minutes, there was somebody here to help us. A woman and her husband showed up, and he lifted her and carried her out for us.
And it's such a private moment too. And you have to reach out to a stranger. I mean, I'm glad somebody was able to help you, but like, I can't imagine how that felt.
Yeah, it was wild.
Well, R.I.P. baby queen of the holler.
She was the best good girl. She was 14 years old. And for a Rottweiler Mastiff mix, that's a long time. Mm-hmm. She spent her first 11 years outside on her own, hunting on the hill and making sure it was clear of vermin.
How many snakes do you think she's eaten her lifetime?
Oh, probably dozens. And squirrels and grasshoppers, or not grasshoppers. What are they called? Rabbits. Hoppers and rabbits.
Well, they hop through the grass,
Yeah. That's where my brain pulled that from. Yeah. Rabbits and groundhogs.
Well, I knew I could see your logic. If I could draw, I would make cartoons of some of the shit we say. So you've just got PETA and Wenda now.
Yep.
They're queens of the house.
Oh yeah, PETA has always been the queen in her own imagination. She has actually relaxed quite a bit because she stayed on guard. If baby was going to get a morsel of food that she didn't get, she was over it and she was going to demand answers for it. And so when we feed them, because we feed them at night, usually there would be a little bit left over and baby would clean up behind them. And the last couple of nights, there was still food left over in the morning. And so PETA cleaned it up in the next morning, and it was just weird. PETA has like relaxed physically some. Like,
she is a stressed out dog.
She really is. She really is. Chihuahuas are just like that, though.
Yeah.
She has a lot on her plate, I guess.
Do you remember? You told me this story about PETA when you first got her that made me laugh. This has been a long time ago. It was when you first got her. It's been probably 10 years now, right? Hadn't she lived with you for a while?
Since 2014. So 12 years, going on 12 years. Yeah.
Well, there's a Facebook memory that popped up of her wearing the eyebrows.
I know what you're talking about.
Will you tell me this story? Because it's one of my favorite stories.
Okay, so I lived in a cul-de-sac, which was right up against, like, it's not a main highway or anything, but it's a pretty busy two-lane road where the high school is and all that kind of stuff. And we had brought PETA home, and she was a baby when we found her. She was maybe 6 months old when we found her, and she still had a lot of energy and liked to run. And so I had my poodle, who was like 14 or 15 at the time. She was like 5 pounds. She was a tiny little poodle. And I had Wenda, and we had PETA. And so one morning I got up, and, first thing in the morning when you take the dogs out, you're not wearing your bra, your hair is tall and saying hi to Jesus. And I was wearing my fuzzy slippers and my fuzzy sweatpants and, just standing out there waiting on my 3 dogs to pee. And PETA jerks on her leash and breaks it. It just breaks in half like it was a piece of paper, right? And she takes off running down this road, down this main road, and she's gone in a flash. So I'm standing there, and so I scoop up the poodle under one arm, and I scoop up Wenda under the other arm, and I start padding down the street to go towards her, right? Because I didn't know what else to do. And so this lady in a CRV sees what's happening. And so she gets down to where PETA is and kind of corrals her back up to me, and I catch her. So when I catch her, I now have Wenda on a leash behind me and a small dog under each arm. I have PETA under one arm and Lacey under the other. And I'm shuffling back to my apartment because I'm wearing fuzzy slippers, remind you, and I'm standing out on the sidewalk now. And this lady in the CRV had turned around, and she comes back. She stops in the middle of the street, and she goes, "Hey, dog lady," which, 3 dogs in my person, and that's a fair assessment. And I expected to say, "Do you need help?" Something like that. But she says, "Hey, dog lady, does that dog have eyebrows?" Because the night before, we had been playing around with PETA, and we had drawn, she's blonde, and we had painted very brown eyebrows on her forehead and not removed them. So what do you even say to that? And I was like, "Yes, I'm an idiot."
Like, you're going to have to get that picture to me so we can put that up.
Does that dog?
Yeah, exactly. She does. And I just really don't have a good excuse for why.
Oh, God. That was one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me.
And also just like this image of you in your fuzzy slippers and pajama pants and tall hair with a teacup-sized animal under each arm, just going down the sidewalk.
And PETA was gone. She was like 3 blocks down the road before I even got around the corner. I don't think I would have got her back if the lady in the CRV hadn't helped me, because she was just like,
and knowing where you lived there, like, it's so visible. House after house, main road, businesses. Every layer of that story gets funnier to me the more I think about it. That's the life of a pet owner, man. You got to say goodbye to your pride.
Can you imagine that lady telling the story, her version of that story?
I absolutely can.
Yeah, I was just driving along, and all of a sudden I got passed by a chihuahua with eyebrows. Like, that's funny.
And the crazy pants weirdo that lost it.
Dog lady. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, you are somebody's meme, like,
Yeah.
you're somebody's cryptid.
Forevermore, they look for
Man.
the pajama dog lady.
I saw somebody with their kitten in a baby carrier on the front of them, like,
Oh,
but turned outward, right? So the cat was seeing whatever they were doing. And I was like, oh my God, I know that at least 2 of my 4 would actually love that.
yeah. I would love to have a cat again. And Shannon asked me yesterday if I wanted to get a kitten, and I was like, absolutely not. That is the last thing we need is another animal. We just, you know what I mean? We're gonna go. The first thing we did was plan a trip to Chicago because we haven't, with baby, we have been stuck in this apartment like for like I would do it forever if she would have stayed. But we have been kind of stuck in this apartment because every 4 hours she has to go and she can't travel. So the first thing we did was plan a trip to Chicago, which we're going to go in February. So
Cool.
excited. Yeah. Something to look forward to.
Did you pick Chicago just out of randomly or?
No, one of my very best friends lives there. We go see her, stay at her house.
Cool.
Yeah. Right. She lives just north of Chicago now. She lives in one of the suburbs where the Six Flags of Chicago is. She lives like 3 blocks from there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I've been to Chicago several times, but not in a way that like allowed me to experience it. It was always a conference or something work related.
I've got to be touristy and it's a lot of fun. It's my favorite city. Granted, I haven't been to a lot of cities, but it's my favorite one so far.
Well, I did do a touristy thing there once. I went to a show, but we just like drove up the night of, went to the show. We stayed in a hostel and left the next morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually was thinking about visiting Chicago the other day just because I've got a couple friends there too. I think is still there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think he ever really liked me. So
it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Like there were times when we were coworkers, so I don't know that we were ever friends, but we're friendly or have been friendly. You kind of trauma bond in a way when you were coworkers in the kind of work that we did in the system that we did, because it was just such a homophobic, transphobic environment there.
Yeah.
Back in the day, LGBTQ stuff being sort of like shoved into spaces that were historically about or devoted to like
racial diversity,
racial and ethnic, racial diversity and stuff. That caused tension, it caused problems. And, it's like we knew why it was done, but it made it so much harder to make any kind of headway. And so that office there that we were in suffered a lot from that.
Right. I always generally liked that guy, but we had a friend in common and I took her out. We took her out for her birthday one time and he tagged along and he was very rude to the wait staff. And that really, I can't handle a person that's rude to wait staff. That is just tells me everything I need to know about you.
Yeah. Like when you told me that story, I was like, I can absolutely see that. And I've seen similar things, but I don't think I saw anything to the degree of that. And that is kind of how he is when he feels like somebody is getting the upper hand. Like if he gets embarrassed in some way or something, like if there's something he didn't know, he will try to make somebody else feel small.
Yeah.
Because he did that to me a couple of times. And I was like, you can't be trusted. Oh, okay.
But I have found that to be true with some gay men. They just don't like women in general.
Speaking of fucking messy gays, especially of the middle class variety or the upper middle class variety, Lost Culture Reaches. This is some podcast tea. Or do you know that podcast?
Huh?
Lost Culturistas. Well, you would think that they're Latinx, but they are not. It's a white dude named Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang, who was the Saturday Night Live guy. Yeah. I think they started this podcast before he was on SNL, but I don't know. Anyway, for whatever reason, Matt Rogers decided to just tell all of their millions of listeners not to donate or support Jasmine Crockett's bid for, is she a senator? What she's running for? She's up for re-election.
That's what she's running for, yeah.
Just for no reason. I mean, well, I know why. He's like, well, she's a Zionist, so you shouldn't support her. What the fuck? Like, why would you just decide that you need to weigh in on that as not a black woman, not someone who lives in that district, and not a Palestinian or somebody who lives in Israel? What the fuck?
Well, white men tend to do that, have opinions on things that have no bearing on them.
And that's exactly it. That's what I was thinking. It's like, not every opinion needs to be voiced, right?
Yeah.
Not every thought that you have needs to come out your mouth, right? But they don't. They honestly think like, oh, I need to say this. It's the dumbest thing anybody's ever heard.
We center our entire culture around white men. You know what I mean? Like they are the dominant paradigm in every kind of configuration that you can think of. And we center them. They're in positions of power. overwhelmingly that they shouldn't be. They're represented in places of power where they shouldn't be. They have a voice on things they shouldn't have a voice on often. Like, for example, you'll never see a group of 30 white women making laws against women's bodies, period. State laws don't change for men when you cross state lines, but they do for women. And that is men, specifically white men, because those are our lawmakers that have done that, and all over the place we see men in power out of proportion. And so they think that every opinion they have is gospel and that we should all care about it, when a lot of us just don't.
I don't care. But the way that you couldn't torture something like that out of me, I get on edge anytime I hear one of them go, hot take. Like, okay,
right.
There's only so many outcomes here. One is you're probably going to say something totally fucking normal, right? Like, I'm tired of people going, hot take, war is bad.
Right.
Bitch, shut up. But conversely, an actual hot take on something ain't got nothing to do with you. Are you sure this needs to be said? Like, are we 100% positive that not only this has to be said, but it has to be said by you right now in this moment? Because, shutting the fuck up is an option.
Yeah, it sure enough is. Do you follow Heather Cox Richardson?
Oh, yes.
In the last couple of days, she's been talking about Minneapolis, and she pointed out that the outrage that a lot of white people are feeling, that she was shot unceremoniously and they're lying about it, that is something that communities of color have been dealing with for decades. Yeah, just the incredulousness that people are coming to this with. It's just like, now the communities of color have not been lying about this.
And it's been televised. It's on. Whatever. But somebody said they're now killing innocent citizens in the street. Now? You mean?
Yeah.
From your perspective, this is a recent development?
Yeah.
Just this year. She's not even the first one this year. What was it? The 9th? January 9th? I don't know what day that was.
I'm not sure.
That happened.
I'm not sure.
Wait, no, that was yesterday. It was very early this year. And
my last few days are kind of scrambled.
Yeah. It was the 7th. It was Wednesday that she was killed. She's not even the first one that ICE killed this year. Killed Keith Porter in Los Angeles on I think it was a New Year's celebration type thing. He had a rifle he was firing as part of his celebration or whatever, and they killed him for it because
as people do.
You know what? I don't know why we can't celebrate without shooting something or blowing something up, but that's just how America is.
Yeah.
Until it's a brown person trying to do it, which he was, it's fine and dandy.
I think about New Year's 2000 I spent with my ex-girlfriend and her mom, and from 99 to 2000, and at midnight we were out in the middle of the street and her mom was shooting a gun. Like, that's out in the country, that's normal.
Yeah. Like firing a gun, it's fun. It's exciting. That's one of the reasons why it's part of celebrations, right? It's just kind of a you don't do it every day type of thing. Obviously there's still protesting here. 2 more people were shot in Portland Thursday, exact same circumstances. The ICE agent was blocking the car. So this is what they do. And I don't know, I'll post it in the show notes because it was hard for me to find. But I remember, so in 2014, there was an article about how ICE has a pattern of this particular thing keeps happening. Remember how even this one motherfucker that killed her said, like, yeah, this already happened to me once before I was dragged by a car. It's because this is a tactic that they employ and it's taught to them in training. One blocks the vehicle in the front, another one gives them the direction to move and harasses them and stresses them out or whatever. And then the second the vehicle starts to move, the one in front opens fire. But there was an article in 2014 that linked to an actual CBP report on this tactic, Customs Border Patrol. Like, this is an internal memo about the fact that this is actually something they're trained to do. So then on the very next day, Thursday, on the 8th, 2 people were shot in the exact same scenario. This is about to turn into a conspiracy theory podcast, but like, they are instigators. Like, we used to say, don't start something, there won't be nothing.
Right. Don't start no shit, won't be no shit.
That's right. And if somebody does start it, you finish it. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna get a gun and a ham radio start fortifying my basement. I'm gonna become Nick Offerman's character in the 3rd episode of the 1st season of The Last of Us.
That's very specific.
You haven't seen that, have you?
No.
I mean, here's what I'll say. You don't need to. The beauty of that is that you don't really need to be a fan of the rest. You don't even have to watch the rest of the season because it's a standalone episode. And it's a queer couple. It's this like elder gay couple. And he discovers he's gay in the apocalypse, but he had been one of these motherfuckers, right? Like the don't tread on me, hide in a basement type of guy who said he was prepping for this, but he survives the apocalypse or the zombie apocalypse. Then he gets to know himself. And then he meets this guy and falls in love with him. It's a fantastic episode. But yeah, he was like a basement dweller, had a gun collection, like don't tread on me, New World Order, blah, blah, blah. And then when the like officers came, he just hid from them. He didn't do anything.
That's something I don't understand, that all the don't tread on me, Second Amendment gun rights bullshit, in case of a tyrannical government, people, we have a tyrannical government right in front of us, and they are just kissing the asses. They are licking the boots of everybody stomping through, It's disgusting to me. The thin blue line hats that some of them wear and that kind of thing. You're not supposed to be pro-police, like...
Police is like HR. They ain't nobody's friend except for the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the police are the Karen HRs of society. The racist Karen HR and...
carries a gun.
Yeah, right. And you're doing it because you think that they'll spare you. Just be honest. And it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them.
It's the right time to be pissed off. I just don't see how this country is going to survive another 3 years under Trump.
Yeah, I don't think that's the plan. Like, I don't think that, surely they don't actually think that that's what would be the result of what they're doing is.
Right. What do you think of all the Trump 2028 bullshit?
If that man is alive in 2028, I want to find out what devil he sold his soul to make that happen.
Well, he clearly did to be who he is.
Yeah. He's the definition of a useful idiot. And you know who warned Republicans that this was going to happen? Was a Republican. Barry Goldwater in the 70s said, if you let these fucking crazy, fear-mongering, religious right evangelical nut jobs have control of the Republican Party, they will elect a populist, and that'll be the end of it. Not just the end of the Republican Party, but the end of American politics. And he was absolutely right. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever. I'll put some resources in for people who want to help out, and then maybe we'll just stop talking about things that make us mad for a minute.
Okay. I think I've had every emotion possible this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep being kind of pleasantly surprised by how much I can stand,
Yeah.
Don't know if it's a good thing yet, but still kicking for better or worse.
There's something to that.
Yep.
Nearly everybody I know has died, so there's something to be said for being alive.
Yeah. They're going to send me to the Mayo Clinic to try to figure out what's wrong with me.
I feel that. I have a friend that goes there, and she has a very rare, it produces tumors in her bodies, whatever the illness is. She's had like 8 tumors removed or something like that over the last few years. But they're very good at finding out when things strange are wrong with you. That's the place you need to be going. So I'm glad your doctor was like, let's get you there.
Yeah. Yeah, she sent me a message, said that, and I was like, well, Lord, what in the hell? Okay. Although ICE is there now, the one in Rochester. That's the one where they're going to send me. ICE is there right now because a lot of the doctors who work there are immigrants.
Even the doctors aren't safe?
Oh, no. Mm-mm. So, no, nobody is safe from them, but it's more about like how easily they can gain access to you. So if there's a place where there's a concentration of either homeless people or people who have fewer resources, like a reservation, that's how they're getting indigenous folks, is they're under vagrancy.
Where are they sending indigenous folks? Where are they deporting them to?
They're not deporting anybody. So ICE is not deporting these folks. They're putting them in centers. they're staying in America. They're going to centers, or they're going to that place that 60 Minutes tried to hide the piece about. You remember what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. So this is a whole nother media thing, but so CBS has a new director of programming named Barry Weiss, who is a queer woman, but is like wildly conservative and racist and reactionary. And 60 Minutes had been making a piece on the place in El Salvador where they're deporting, quote unquote, people to. And it's a fucking concentration camp. And so the 60 Minutes was all set to air this piece, and Barry Weiss, she scrapped it. But she didn't, I guess she forgot that Canada exists, and CBS airs in other places, and that VPNs exist. And so somebody in Canada saw it air and actually recorded it. So you can watch it now. But I can't remember the name of the CECOT, CECOT, which is in El Salvador. There's PBS now. There's a NewsHour piece about it. So it accidentally aired in Canada is what they're saying happened. No, I don't want to. I love you, PBS, but I don't have time to donate right now. The El Salvador prison, called the Terrorism Confinement Center in English, is where they're sending these folks. And it's just a torture camp, basically.
That's crazy. Like, who are we?
Well, I mean, I think it's starting to become more obvious because, Treblinka, Auschwitz, Dachau, Birkenwald, they weren't in Germany. There's a really great movie about the way, I don't know what to really call this. The movie's called Zone of Interest, which is what they called the towns or the locations that they would scout to decide to put a concentration camp. And so, like, they obviously couldn't be in Germany because it would be too in the face of the Germans, and it could tip them over into outrage or rebellion. There's a book by Manuel Castells that we read when we were in theory there called Networks of Outrage and Hope. Do you remember this?
I do. I read so many. I don't remember the book very well.
Yeah, and it's not super applicable because it's about like Wall Street, 99% or whatever it was, like that whole time period. But he did a great job of talking about the tipping point, the moment that outrage becomes action. And so there's that was what was the takeaway for me about that book. But so like that, if they had the camps in Germany, they were risking that tipping point. It was too in your face. The people couldn't safely ignore it. So the zones of interest were in either occupied areas or allied areas around Europe, and they would put a camp there. And this movie is shot on, it's just a regular old family, right? He's a Nazi officer. I think he's commandant of the camp, but they never show the camp. You can hear it sometimes. You hear maybe gunshots or screaming. In the very back distance of a shot, you could see maybe the smokestack coming up from the crematorium. But it's so fucking unnerving to watch this family go about their daily life. Their house servants are the people with the shaved heads and the striped pajamas and shit. And it's very much about like, you could be these people. Any of us could be these people, because almost all of us are looking for an out or a way to not have to look directly at the horrors, especially if we think we might be spared from them.
Right.
And I've been thinking about that movie a lot lately, especially after this 60 Minutes thing about the concentration camp in El Salvador was, of course, they didn't want us to see it, but that's what they're doing. They're not deporting anybody because obviously, I mean, most of these people are citizens. And if they're not citizens, they just have never lived anywhere else.
Right.
And why else would they want to revoke birthright citizenship? They want to be able to send their political enemies to these camps. That's the end goal. And they're sneaking in through this immigration policy bullshit, and ICE is the Gestapo, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
I agree with you completely.
Back to Heather Cox Richardson's point, they're killing white people now.
Yeah.
Where's the Second Amendment people? I think I know where they are. I think they're in ICE.
Yeah, for real.
We didn't do a very good job of changing the subject.
Well, I think sometimes we just got to talk about, the things that are happening.
I know. I did try to think of something goofy to do, though, for today's sponsor. So maybe now is a good time to hear from the Shakespeare of the Holler. Now is the winter of our god dang discontent. It's cold as hell, y'all. The wind comes down the holler like a debt collector for a generation's old account we can't possibly settle. Once was promised spring, warm and decent. They said it'd be early this year. They said that last year too. Spring is a liar and should be ashamed. The mountain just sits there, judging us in silence like it knows we didn't bring enough firewood, but it is going to let us figure that out the hard way. The radio says sunshine, the sky says bullshit. The weather app says it's 34 degrees because it's a liar, and it's on the take from Big Kim Trail. I, who was not made for this nonsense, nor designed for ice on the steps, must now perform the ancient rituals of winter. Somehow slipping but not falling but not telling anybody, and staring at the thermostat like it might change its mind. We have shoveled snow we didn't ask for. We have salted walkways that laughed at us. We have worn every shirt we own at the same time, and still been cold in the elbow. We have stood in the doorway saying, well, it's not that bad, while actively suffering. Yet we still endure, with soup too hot, coffee too strong, and cat fur pocked blankets. So let winter rage on if it must. Let the pipes knock like they're haunted. Let the truck not start for no reason at all. For the winter of our discontents shall pass eventually, and if it don't, we'll sit right here and just complain about it a little louder. Amen.
Amen.
He's actually not that cold.
Yeah, it was in the 60s yesterday here, but now it's like 25.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20 here, but that's kind of warm for this part of Minnesota. I don't want to jinx it, though, because everybody kept going like, oh, last winter was so mild. This winter's going to be terrible. Last winter was way worse than this one by this point. There were feet on the ground by January last year.
We don't have any snow at all in our vicinity right now. There are babies' footprints all over my yard in the mud. That makes me sad. But yeah, memories of her are everywhere. Shannon doesn't want to mop the floor because it was real muddy the last day. And when we brought her in from going outside, there's footprints on the floor in the living room. So we have a dirty floor right now because we don't want to get rid of her footprints.
You gotta clean the floor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we will. We will. It ain't hurting nothing right now.
No, it's not. And people have done much weirder things because they were sad.
Yeah. A little mud on the floor ain't never hurt nobody. I'm not ready for school to start. I'm really not. Mentally, I'm not prepared. If I had like 2 more weeks, I would be good, I think. Like 2 more weeks. But alas, I do not get 2 more weeks.
No.
But where I'm teaching one class online, I only have 3 classes on campus this semester, so that makes it not as rough. But on Tuesdays, I have class at 11:30. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have class at 11:30 and 6:30.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's going to make me be on campus and do some writing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, no matter what I do. So I'm going to do my office hours on Tuesdays, which is just more time sitting around, but I can go to my office for a couple of hours and work there. So I want to make it work. And on Mondays, I don't have to be there till 4:30. So
you could go for walks and stuff too.
In this winter?
Do y'all get memberships to the gym there? I'm not saying you should go to the gym.
Yeah, no, but you have to pay for it.
Okay.
I'll cut you off like my friend that sent me the link for the Biggest Loser application. I haven't talked to that bitch. Oh, yeah. I haven't talked to that bitch in like 20 years. I'm still pissed about that. Not 20 years. Probably been 10 years since I talked to her.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's one of the most rude things anybody's ever done to me.
Yeah, you can't. Again, people are out here just doing stuff of their own free will that you couldn't torture me into doing.
Right? People just like to be mean. And I'll never understand it.
I remember there have been times in my life when I have been in a lot of pain and being mean felt good, or at least felt like a distraction from being in pain. Did you bring a noun of Appalachian interest?
I did. Shanna insisted that I do a particular one this week. So This one is dedicated to my wife. All right. This week's noun of Appalachian interest is clogs. And no, we're not talking about Crocs, not foam, not sport mode. We mean the shoes that you dance in, the loud ones, the ones that turn your feet into percussion instruments and make the floor part of the band. Real clogs are made for clogging, which is a folk dance where your shoes do most of the talking. The heel hits, the toe taps, and suddenly the dancer's lower half is keeping time better than a metronome. The goal isn't grace so much as rhythm. Arms are mostly along for the ride, just trying to stay out of trouble. Clogging shows up anywhere there's old-time or bluegrass music and a floor that hasn't been worn. It's especially at home in Appalachia, and fun fact, it's the official state dance of both Kentucky and North Carolina. If that doesn't tell you how serious this is, nothing will. And while clogging often gets framed as the single rural tradition, it's actually a mashup of a lot of histories. The steps carry influences from Irish, Scottish, and English dance, along with African American buck dancing and native movement styles, all blended together over generations. What started in living rooms with furniture shoved aside turned into dance halls, festivals, and competition. It's still all about the community. Every time somebody pulls out those clogs or starts stomping, they're carrying a whole lot of Appalachian memory with them, boldly, loudly, proudly, and right on the beat. Team clogging really took off in the mountains of North Carolina in the early 1900s, starting with square dancing groups. One famous group even danced at the White House in 1939, which is proof that if you stop with confidence, eventually the government notices. Today, clogging shows up at festivals, fairs, and competitions where teams stomp it out for prizes and pride. Through it all, the clogs stay loud and unapologetic with no interest in being subtle. So here's to clogs, the shoes that don't whisper, don't apologize, and remind us that in Appalachia, sometimes it's the best music comes straight from the feet.
Awesome. I'd totally forgotten about that.
We were discussing what I should do for the noun this week because I don't have any extras written up right now, which I usually do. I write a few ahead of time. So I was going to have to write one. And she was like, clogging. And I was like, well, that's a verb. That ain't going to work. And, and she tried to, to clog was not a verb. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that makes it a verb.
That is called an infinitive.
But yeah, clogging is big in West Virginia.
Cool. We would like horse around and do it when I was in college, which is, now that I think about it, just really strange. Of course, we also would sit around and drum. We would have drum circles and stuff. Like,
right.
I think Appalachia had an identity crisis in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like, what are we? We don't want to be this like history of like the racist history of the region. How do you rebel against that without also giving up your identity as a person from the region? Like, we were just too young and stupid to actually know how to answer that question. So there was a lot of like cultural appropriation and stuff, trying to prove that we weren't rednecks. It's like, wait a minute. No, you're still a redneck. Now you just won with dreadlocks. Oscar's over here chewing on my thermometer.
I've got two dogs stretched out fully on the couch here. PETA in her pajamas. She's wearing fleece tie-dyed pajamas. She looks cute in them, but she stays cold. Hi, Winnie-woo. Ooh, big stretch.
I think I'm going to take some Benadryl and see if... Actually, the swelling's gone down, but I think it's a sinus infection.
You just can't win, can you?
You know, at this point, I'm kind of like, what could be next? You know?
Yeah, I feel that in my soul. What could be next?
If we're going to keep this up, we're going to have to be getting creative soon, you know? But I think I'm going to make a pot of some chili too, so.
We were thinking about making some of that tomorrow.
Fuck yeah.
Shanna's working a lot this weekend.
Let's both post pictures of our chili then.
Do you ever eat it with a peanut butter sandwich?
I did the last time I made chili because you told me to, and it was delicious.
I told you, it's really, like, you don't expect those two flavors to work together, but they absolutely do. It's so good.
Yeah, it's strange. And then a glass of milk. Perfect.
It's delicious. So listeners, if you've never tried a bowl of chili with a peanut butter sandwich, what you got to do is take one piece of bread, smear the peanut butter on it, and fold it corner to corner so that it's a triangle, because then it's perfect for dipping.
See, yeah, I was wondering, like, am I supposed to dip it too?
Yeah.
I'll try that this time.
I'm so glad you liked it.
I'd never heard of it. Yeah, my family didn't do that.
Well, that's how they had it at school. Like, when we went to school, that was such a Southern Ohio thing. I think it came from, like, we'd have it the day after having hamburgers because they would just recycle the meat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how we were at McDonald's with the sausage gravy. We would take the sausage patties from yesterday's breakfast and make the gravy with.
Yeah.
Well, let's call it.
Okay.
this episode's dedicated to Baby, dedicated to Keith Porter and Renee Good and anyone
She was
else.
a lesbian too.
And her wife and kids, or
Though I did see there's a GoFundMe for them. They've already got 1.6 million in the GoFundMe. So
they actually closed it. They were like, we've got plenty, and so now it's a directory for people to give to other folks who need funds. So if you didn't know about that GoFundMe, still go to it, and you can access other places to give your funds there as well. And I'll see if I can find that and put those links in here.
Okay, cool.
But stay strong, everybody. Laugh if you can, but don't let them fuck you over.
Amen. Hug your animals once for me.
That's right. And say hi to your mom and them.
Bye.